Warm greetings from the Center for National Security Studies. I am your host, Balasubramanian, Senior Research Officer and Head of the Strategic Studies Program at CNSS. Today, we are in a conversation with our distinguished guest, Mr. Salahuddin Shoaib Chowdhury. To introduce our guest for today, Mr. Salahuddin Chowdhury is the editor and publisher of the weekly Blitz. He is an internationally acclaimed, multi-award winning journalist, a prolific writer, research scholar, and a counter-terrorism specialist. He regularly writes for local as well as international media, including newspapers, on diversified topics, including international relations, diplomacy, security, and counter-terrorism. A warm welcome, Mr. Salahuddin Chowdhury, and thank you very much for taking time to be with us.
It's an honor being on your channel.
Thank you, sir. Let me start with the first question regarding the student-led uprising. How do you think has the student-led uprising in July 2024 reshaped Bangladesh political landscape, and what challenges does the interim Muhammad Yunus interim government face in maintaining legitimacy while implementing reforms before the planned elections? Is it a Bengali or a Urdu Bangladesh the youth aspire for in the months and days ahead? Your take, sir.
Thank you very much. Actually, I don't want to call it student uprising. It was practically a jihadist group plotted by the Islamic State. And later we also found that Pakistani ISI and other elements were involved behind this imperative. And Muhammad Yunus took oath on the 8th of August with a promise of holding an election and handing over power to an elected government. But at the same time, he came up with a bouquet of reform proposals, reforming media, reforming constitution, etc. And subsequently or ultimately, they came up with a real face, stating that they are going for a July declaration of the July Charter, which will transform the interim regime into a revolutionary government. And once that takes place, they want to also nullify the constitution of Bangladesh. So once the constitution of Bangladesh is made ineffective, then it will give the Yunus the opportunity of dismissing the current president, Muhammad Shahruddin, the army chief, General Waqar Zaman, and anything he wants. So clearly, now this so-called student uprising, which is actually a junior school, it is now showing up this actual agenda of Talibanizing or turning Bangladesh into a kind of the post-1989 Iran, where there will be no democracy, no election, and you know very well that until now, 266 journalists are in jail facing murder charges. This is unprecedented. We used to know that Captain Recep Tayyip Erdogan was known as the champion jailer of journalists. Now, Yunus has broken that record. So this is a very scary situation over here. And at the same time, during the 10 months, we have witnessed a genocide on Hindus, religious and ethnic minorities in this country. At the same time, there is an ongoing persecution of the Bengalis, 180 million Bengalis. So altogether, this is a very scary situation in this country.
Let us now speak about a little bit about the key triggers. What do you think are the key triggers behind the mass protest that led to Sheikh Hasina's ouster in August 2024, and how has her exile in India influenced the ongoing political dynamics in Bangladesh?
You see, Sheikh Hasina came to power in 2009 through a landslide victory. But in 2013, actually 2014, when there was uh, scheduled for a next election. Then she started showing her desire of disseminating the political opponent, particularly her key political rival, Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And that was the beginning when Sheikh Hasina became autocratic. She was continuing repression on media, intimidation of her political opponent, and she was not listening to even her foreign allies of her blunders or mistakes. She became too much egoist. She was pushing forward her agenda of remaining in power indefinitely. And that was the reason what made her from the 2009, from the landslide victory to 2014 controversy. Then she had a kind of the very sham election in 2018, where ballot papers were stamped previous night of the election, and then 2014 election. So I think Sheikh Hasina is responsible herself for her fall, and she also tried to, you see, she has been uh, gaining lots of advantages. Actually, Bangladesh was gaining. It was a, how to say, it was a struggling economy in 2009, and during this year, it became an economic hub. Bangladesh GDP growth was not much higher than Pakistan, even slightly more than India. So that was her achievement. But she forgot that these achievements was because of her consistent good relations with India. But as I said, she became egoist. So from 2022 and 23, Sheikh Hasina expanded her hand towards Pakistan. Sheikh Hasina extended her hand towards China. And she also became extremely vocal in favor of Palestinian, a country, a nation that did not recognize the existence of Bangladesh until 1975, and the assassination of the Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And Palestinian leadership were opposing Bangladesh war of independence in 1971. You know, even the United States were against us, China was against us, at the time India and Soviet Union. They were with us. Sheikh Hasina forgot this history, I should say. She tried to normalize relations with Pakistan, strengthen relations with China. So she put her steppings into the two boats together. And then it was the result that we saw, very catastrophic. And now with Sheikh Hasina in very difficult situation, only India is giving her refuge, not China, not her Arab brethren or so-called Palestinians, no one. So India is the natural ally of Bangladesh, not Sheikh Hasina. Bengali, I should say. But Sheikh Hasina forgot it. And that was her political blunder. And now, if you say that her staying in India, what is the consequence in Bangladesh? Bengalis are giving, Bengalis, not Bengalis, everyone in Bangladesh, they're given a misinterpretation by the Yunus regime and the MP of Singapore that India does not care about Bangladeshis or Bengalis. To them, Sheikh Hasina is a priority, which is not true. So this is creating room to anti-India sentiment in Bangladesh. And when there is when it's of anti-India sentiment, it coincides with the anti-Hindu sentiment. So the reason the Hindus are facing genocide in this country, I should definitely mention that genocide or atrocities of Hindus in this part of the world is not new. It began exactly on the 16th of August 1945. It was the Pakistan. It was created on the basis of religion. And we Bengalis, we were never Pakistanis. We were forcefully made the East Pakistan. You don't find such kind of the peculiar arrangement. I mean, our distance with Pakistan is thousands of kilometers. We don't, we are not connected with land or anything in Pakistan. How Bangladesh or could become an East Pakistan? So that was the feeling, I suspect, of those people who wanted to play a foul with the independence of India on the 15th of August 1947, and the creation of Pakistan was a curse for us Bengalis. And we were treated like slaves from 1947 to 1971, though we are liberated from 1971 with the help of India, with the sacrifice of life of the Indian soldiers and people. But I mean, I should say this persecution of Hindus, where I started. This persecution and grabbing of Hindu properties, it began in 1947. It is a political party. Awami League, BNP, Jamaat-e-Islami, Jatiya Party, all they are being the beneficiaries of the grabbing of Hindu land, forcing Hindus to flee this country, leaving their whatever they have in this part of the world. So this genocide or atrocity is historic, but since Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh on the 5th of August last year, it has been tremendously, alarmingly intensified. And now we are seeing the cases of repression of Hindus every day, and you are aware of it also.
Speaking about Muhammad Yunus, he has promised a new Bangladesh with sweeping reforms. But there is a lot of growing discontent and no firm election date. How do you think, sustainable is his interim government's mandate? And how do you think, what is the role of Bangladeshi army in governance and its relationship with the interim government of Muhammad Yunus?
Yunus is actually touting the new Bangladesh, which actually is a character that he wants to establish in this country. I mean, all East Pakistan, return of East Pakistan, Islamization of this part of the world. I mean, so he is bringing up these excuses, as I have already mentioned, reforms, whatever. These are all mere excuses, but Yunus is practically continuing his rampant loot of this country. If you remember, if you know that even yesterday, one advisor of the Yunus regime, Asif Mahmoud Sajid Bhuiya, he was stopped at the Dhaka International Airport as he was carrying a loaded magazine of AK-47 rifles in his cabin baggage. And then he came up with a clarification that he needs this weapon for the security of his family. But AK-47 is absolutely banned for civilians. It's only military is allowed. So if you can imagine the degree of uh, dangerous atmosphere situation Europe has pushed Bangladesh into, and the role of the army on the 5th of August, immediately after Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh, our Army Chief General Wakil Zaman, in a terrible address to the nation, he asked everyone to have faith in him. And in Bangladesh, in India, we hold our armed forces at a very high esteem. We feel proud of our armed forces. So the nation put their faith and General Wakil Zaman. And now for the last 10 plus months, what is happening in Bangladesh is not unfortunate, it's terrible. So in May 21st, on May 21st this year, General Wakil Zaman categorically told the Yunus to hold the election by 30th of December 2025 and refrain from leasing out Chittagong port and other infrastructures to foreign nations. and also to refrain from giving corridor to urban state. These were the preconditions. But Yunus is not going to comply with his request because he has been put into power by the US deep state and other elements to solve their purposes. So Yunus is definitely pushing forward, as I have mentioned to you, that he is going to declare the July Charter in this July, which will absolutely challenge the existence of the ROC. In that case, he will be shot, he'll be arrested, and the charges of crimes against humanity will be brought against him. And you should also know that under the watch of General Wakar, all the chiefs of the Directorate General of Forces Intelligence of Bangladesh, they are being charged under crimes against humanity. Their residences inside the garrison are being raided. Even their wives are facing intimidation. Their accounts are blocked. Anti-corruption charges are brought against them. And at this moment, unknown number of army officers in Bangladesh are put on house arrest. So this is not happening without the knowledge of General Wakuruzaman. Indeed, but General Wakuruzaman, in my opinion, he tolerated these things. But now he is somehow heading towards a very catastrophic consequence unless he takes a military action or military initiative against this illegal regime. And by the way, under the constitution of Bangladesh, there is no provision of any interim government, not at all. So people are asking, Yunus is chief advisor of him. Actually, Yunus was appointed chief advisor to the president of Bangladesh. So he himself is no government. That's why I'm repeatedly saying it's a regime illegal also. So General Wakuruddin also understood that there is no provision in Bangladesh constitution of installing an interim government. There is only provision of caretaker government, which is election time for 90 days. It must hold the election in 90 days. But Europe is not caretaker government. He is the interim government. So at the beginning it's illegal, and now Europe is having further illegal steps by, as I said, declaring his government as a revolutionary government, nullifying our constitution. So, in one word, if I may say, that our sovereignty is, is at risk, and army should do what it should do.
Let us little bit also touch about economy, because Bangladesh economy has faced a lot of inflation, declining foreign reserves, trade disruptions since 2024. What steps is the interim government taking to stabilize the economy, and can do you think the garment industry recent export growth signal a broader recovery?
Not at all. Bangladesh export is declining. During the last 10 plus months, there has been no foreign investment. This foreign reserve is increasing because of the money sent by the Bangladeshi expatriates. And government, as you mentioned, I would like to inform you that until today, 9 million people lost their jobs. Out of them, 2 million are from the government sector. Hundreds of government sectors are being are shut down because the Yunus began a kind of the action against some of the government sectors which were owned by Awami League leaders. And those were real large government sectors. So in a country where there is no foreign investment, even businessmen, they cannot open the LC. And as you say, inflation has been checked during the recent times, but although it is checked, but in other on other areas, if we look that there is no one, even Bangladesh, no one is daring to take any initiative of establishing a factory, even garment. People are losing jobs. It is popularly said in Bangladesh now that it's a season of people losing jobs. No one is getting a new job. And if this is continued, then by December this year, at least at least 6.5 million workers in the government sector, majority of whom are female, they will lose their job because Islamists, who are the key allies of Yunus, they don't appreciate women working. They want women to put on burqa or hijab and stay at home and only take care of the children. So they in an atmosphere where the Islamization process is going on or Talibanization process is going on, we don't expect or we should not expect anything good from the economy.
Speaking of political unrest, how have political unrest and strained relations with India impacted Bangladesh trade, particularly in critical sectors like garment and infrastructure? And what are the interim government's efforts to mitigate these disruptions?
The backbone of Bangladeshi garment industry were raw materials from India because we were getting raw materials with a convenient shipping schedule, comparatively cheaper price. So when India has suspended many trade benefits for Bangladesh already, as you know, so it is directly impacting our garment factory, textile industry also. So within the atmosphere and the anti-India sentiment growing under the with the patronization of Nero's regime and his Islamist jihadist collaborators over, I think at the end of the day, people are already realizing, people, they realizing that we are losing because of our deteriorating relations with India. But Iran also understand this. But what is the agenda of Iran? During the last 10 months, $9 billion disappeared from the stock market. Billions of dollars being smuggled out from us. Yunus got license of 23 new businesses for his own, on, including manpower license. Now Yunus has called upon all the public sectors in private houses establishments to have solar panels on their ceiling. And you know who is supplying the solar panel? Islamic Shakti, a company owned by Yunus. So Yunus is the is making cash quick by selling Bangladesh. And he will sell the Chittagong port to the foreign companies. He will sell many things. He will give airbase to Pakistan or China in Lalmonisa. He will give a corridor to Arakan army no matter what opposition says. And ultimately pushing Bangladesh or turning Bangladesh into a newer ground of proxy war. So this is what Yunus agenda is, and I would like to repeat that our armed forces is aware of it. General Wakil Zaman is very much aware of it. He may have been showing patience, but he can only understand that if his patience is not running out of time, then the many generals and top officials in Bangladesh army, they are already becoming worried. They are becoming annoyed because they are not willing to see destruction of Bangladesh in front of their own eyes. So altogether, I can say either Bangladesh will enter the black hole by this year, or it will be liberated from the evil clutches of foreign military.
Reports indicate a rise in violence against minority, especially Hindus, since Hasina's fall. Do you think these attacks are primarily politically motivated, as some suggest, or do they reflect a deeper sectarian divide?
There are violence scenes focused targeting activists and leaders of Awamidi, secular individuals, and then religious and ethnic minorities. As I said, that Europe is promoting anti-India sentiment. So to him, Hindus are the prime target. And I should not say there is atrocity on Hindus. I should say there is well orchestrated genocide on Hindus. And since August last year, Hindus in Bangladesh are thrown into a hellish impasse. And this is, as I said, that Yunus want to wipe out Awami League. He wants to wipe out Sheikh Mujibur Rahman from the soil of this country, despite the fact that Awami League has approximately 45 million vote banks, 45 million out of 120 million voters. Awami League has 45 million voters, most ancient party, which is based everywhere. So Yunus is practically continuing a war against Bengalis, 180 million Bengalis who defeated Pakistani army in 1971 with the help of India and other foreign allies. But Yunus is serving the purpose of Pakistan. And I think Pakistan wants to take revenge of its extremely humiliating defeat of 1971. To them, Bengalis are their enemies, and Pakistan is never considered Bengalis as Muslims, never. In their eyes, we are Hindus. And even in 1971, when there was a war of independence in Bangladesh, Pakistan and its Arab allies, I should say Arab brethren, they were projecting our war as a war between Muslims and Hindus. Hindus meaning us, Bengali, and Muslims meaning those Pakistani occupation forces. So, as you have stated, that the genocide on religious minorities, Hindus, and Awami League, and Indian Ocean, so these are all together connected to each other. But now, if you are talking about the ultimate consequences of the situation on Rohingya, which is very important, I'd like to describe this matter that, as I say, that Yunus want to grant corridor preferences to Arakan State, meaning he wants to let the United Nations and US supply weapons to Arakan Army with the target of capturing Burma, Myanmar, by ousting the pro-Chinese government. In other words, conquer Burma on behalf of United States by using Burma. And once that takes place, weapons go into the hands of Arakan army, then other elements will start giving, actually they are already giving weapons to Rohingya. And Rohingyas also have a number of uh, militant groups or jihadist groups or terrorist entities. So ultimately, all the Rohingyas are being fooled by Yunus with the false promise of returning to Myanmar. It will not take place. It will never happen under this regime. So ultimately, what we can see and we will see that once Arakan army gets a weapon, they will attack Burma, Netido, to oust the Burmese government. At the same time, they would infiltrate inside Bangladesh to attack the Rohingya. In the Rohingya camps, you know that a few months ago, members of Arakan army infiltrated 10 kilometers inside Bangladesh territory to participate in the festival. So for Bangladesh, which is Rohingya, over 1.3 million now, it could be 1.4 million even. So once Arakan army gets the weapon, Rohingya get weapon, so Burma, the whole entire Burma will be destabilized, and this weapon will also enter some of the insurgency groups in the northeastern state in India. For real kind information, that Bangladesh has already dropped Starlink, and Starlink has been allowed to operate without complying with the mandatory laws of the land. Meaning, Bangladesh government cannot intercept or monitor the activities of Starlink. And according to my information, Starlink is going into the hands of Arakan army already. It is also going into the hands of some insurgency groups in the northeast because to install Starlink or get the Starlink connection, people need to pay something like 50,000 or 60,000 taka, which is roughly 450 to $500. It is something that every Bangladeshi cannot afford. And even, for example, my newspaper or at my home, we are using high-speed internet, and we pay only 1,500 taka, which is just like roughly $8. No, not $8. 1,500 taka is $1 is 120 taka now. So yes, it's roughly $10, $12 we are paying. And for some family, we have to pay 5,000, which is almost $45. No one can afford. Actually, even if they can afford, they would not pay. So why this diabetes cap? For whom? For Arakan. It is coming from the insurgency group in Northeast. And this is a very alarming sign.
It's a very lot of interesting points that you have raised. My next question is on lifting of bans on Islamist groups like Jamaat-e-Islami and the release of detained leaders have actually raised fears of radicalism. How significant is the risk of a resurgence of extremist elements, and what does this mean for Bangladesh's secular identity?
As I have stated, that Bangladesh is heading towards becoming a caliphate of East Pakistan under the illegal regime of Yunus. So, lifting of ban on Jamaat-e-Islami, and you have not mentioned that imposition of ban on Awami League, and lifting of ban from the Islamist forces, releasing jihadists like Jashimuddin Rahmani from jail, who openly pronounced declared of waging jihad against India. So altogether, things are happening here that which are all the elements within the regime, they are actively pushing for their agenda of Talibanization or Islamization or Caliphatization of Bangladesh. And with this scenario, I mean, resurgence of, uh, there is not a risk of resurgence of extremist forces. Extremist forces are already on. Because during my 38 years of journalistic career, or in my life, I have never seen Islamic State flag or Al Qaeda flag or Taliban flag openly on the streets of Bangladesh. But since August last year, you have seen everyone, hundreds and thousands of Al Qaeda, Islamic State, Taliban, and even Hamas were waved on the streets of this country. So the country has been hijacked by the Islamic and jihadi forces, and unless some immediate measures are taken by our armed forces, I think we have a very painful future of this country.
Do you think Bangladesh has now shown signs of warming ties with Pakistan under Yunus, including discussions on reviving the SAARC? What do you think motivates this shift, and how does it challenge the regional stability?
Yunus is, as I say, Yunus is the mercenary of the US president, and Pakistan is outside other elements. Yunus is not only is advancing his agenda of Pakistanizing Bangladesh, he also attempting to use all the elements which are enemies of India, or at least rivals of India. For example, China, for example, Turkey, and many other countries. And if you remember that Yunus went to China and said that Northeast is the lost land and he is the sole guardian of the ocean. So all these things, what it proves that Yunus is practically advancing his agenda of turning Bangladesh into a fertile land of anti-India. And also, of course, he wants to let the enemies of Bengali once again become our masters.
Speaking of Yunus' visit to China, what do you think are the strategic implications for India of the first trilateral meeting between China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which was just held recently in Kunming in June 2025, especially given the timing after Muhammad Yunus' visit to China in March and its status as China's second trilateral initiative in India's neighborhood following the China, Pakistan, Afghanistan dialogue. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
You see, unity is now almost at the final stage of buying fighter jets from Chinese drones at reaching Bangladesh, an official an official channel. And if you want that any consignment arriving from Pakistan, Yunus made a law that any consignment arriving from Pakistan, it cannot go through post-landing inspection. I mean, our customs, they cannot touch any Pakistani consignment. So taking this advantage, Pakistan, being a cattle exporting nation, it and with its army and its intelligence, both are talent competitive, then Pakistan China relations they are aware. So as I said, they are buying fighter jets from China, drones from China. They are buying drones from Turkey. They are buying weapons from Turkey, and they are also buying weapons and military hardware from Pakistan. So altogether, if we are talking about this Sino-Pakistan Bangladesh nexus, I would like not to say Sino-Pakistan Bangladesh nexus. Instead, I would like to say Sino-Pakistan US nexus because Bangladesh is not represented by Yunus. Bengalis are not represented by him. So this is a very dangerous and vicious nexus which has been common agenda of destabilizing India and trying to do the same thing that they've done in Bangladesh last year. So for India, not only this nexus is important to watch for the Kunming meeting, but for India, the whole matter of this nexus, growing nexus, open covertly and overtly, it is very important.
Speaking of the United States, the US has supported Muhammad Yunus' democratic reforms, but at the same time, it also remains concerned about Islamic influence and China's presence. How do you think is the US positioning itself in Bangladesh transition, and what do you think are the US strategic priority? Do you think the dynamics between Muhammad Yunus and US has changed after the Republicans have come to power?
The United States is under the absolute influence of the US deep state and their military industrial enterprise. So whether it is Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Donald Trump, end of the day, everyone is saying they will have to comply with the requirements of the US deep state and military industrial enterprise. You have seen how Trump made a promise of ending the Ukraine war within 24 hours or ending the Gaza war within no time. But now Trump took power in January this year, 6 months time, nothing in Ukraine, nothing in Gaza. So I think Trump has nothing to do actually. Trump is not Trump. Any president can do nothing unless the US deep state is convinced of changing its policy. And Trump during his election campaign, he made so many promises of helping Hindus in Bangladesh, standing with Bharat, India. And as time has grown, I think with his failure in doing anything about the ongoing genocide on Hindus in this country, or Pakistan's continuous conspiracy of destabilizing India, or his failure in ending the Ukraine war, Gaza war, whatever, Trump has actually become a grand clown of our time. Whatever he says, it makes no value. And America, I would like to repeat, America is a country, is an entity controlled by the US dictator. And US dictator always loved the Islamic. During the 1971 War of Independence of our country, the same US dictator stood against our War of Independence. It stood in favor of Pakistan because Pakistan is a cattle exporting nation and Pakistani defense minister has publicly admitted that they do the dirty work for US. And then these Americans, they support Jamaat-e-Islami. I mean, this romance is unprecedented. So America itself is the key facilitator of Islamism, jihadism. If you mention Al Qaeda, Islamic State, Boko Haram, Al Shabaab, whatever, those are created by US. In Afghanistan, they have created Taliban, Al Qaeda, etc. through Pakistani ISIL, and in other places in African countries, they are using their own mercenaries. So never think America is against Islamism or jihadism.
My last question for you will be, with elections looming, economic challenges persisting, and foreign policy realignments, what are the best and worst case scenarios for Bangladesh's future? How will these outcomes impact India's security as well as regional influence?
There is no election in this country under Yunus regime. There will be no election. Even Yunus wants to remain in power indefinitely, wants to become the Sultan of Bengal country. So with Yunus, economy will keep on falling, falling, and falling. People will keep on suffering. More people will become unemployed. The economic sector will collapse. And with this situation, Bangladesh will become a fertile ground for evil elements like jihadis, Al Qaeda, Islamic State, etc. You know, just recently, 36 Bangladeshis were arrested in Malaysia on allegation of having connections with Islamic State, and they were also involved in the last year regime change, the jihadist coup. So for India, until Yunus is in the office or Yunus is having more power, for India, Yunus himself is the greatest security threat. And Bangladesh, once again, I'll try to repeat, Bangladesh is never against India. Bangladesh, we are not against India, not at all. India was our ally friend, and it is, and it will remain. But as I can say that our entire nation has been hosted by these hooligans and jihadis and foreign mercenaries, and as our fate is uncertain, as I've just mentioned, so I think with this uncertainty, uh, you understand the possible security threat that India will face until Yunus regime is gone.
For the sake of our audience, if I can just indulge you with one last question. Do you think is Tariq Rahman going to come back anytime soon? Will Awami League be allowed to participate in the next election? What will be the role of Bangladeshi army here? Your final thoughts on this, please, sir?
Tariq Rahman will never come to Bangladesh because Yunus is his allied government and there is no case against him. But he is not coming. He was convicted into multiple cases, you are aware, even including that his involvement with the 10 Club arms war, which was going to Ulfa. Our League, Yunus is thinking that he can erase our League from the soil of Bangladesh, which is impossible. As I said, 45 million voters. So as the time goes, and recently, another 13th of this month, June, there was a secret meeting between Yunus and Tariq Rahman in London, which people are calling a London Gate scandal. London Gate scandal. And after this meeting, BNP has suddenly become more friend of Yunus than Jamaat-e-Islami. So you understand the situation that all the events they are showing their face, Jamaat-e-Islami, BNP, Yunus, and Hifazat Islam, Hizb Tahrir, and other Islamic forces. And I think now it's time for Bangladesh to see what our army does. Because we civilians, we don't have weapons. We cannot wage war against anyone because we are just people. We don't have weapons. Army has. And army's existence, very existence, is now threatened. And if they would not act now, I can guarantee that by the end of this month, this year, you will see that the General Wakil and most of his top generals inside the prison facing the charges of crimes against humanity because the cases Sheikh Hasina is facing because she was just a prime minister. Definitely, the army chief will cannot be taken just how to say get out of this trap. So for our army, it's a question of survival, exist for Bangladesh, and Bangladesh again it's a question of our survival, our existence, and now the decision is big question mark in front of everyone. What happens next? For that, we have to wait just few more weeks, not beyond 15th of August 2025.
Thank you so much, sir. That brings us to the end of today's episode. A big thank you to our guest, Mr. Salahuddin Shoaib Chowdhury, for spending time with us and offering such invaluable insights on the topic with his subject matter expertise on Bangladesh and counterterrorism. To our audience, I hope you found the discussion insightful and thought provoking. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of this conversation. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.